In today's video, I will be surviving for 100 days of hardcore Minecraft in a beach-only world. However, there's a twist. This beach-only world was made in Minecraft 1.18, which means underneath all of these barren, sandy shores lies a massive system of caves full of treasures and danger guarding them. In order to survive in this world that's lacking of any trees or sources of food, I will have to make the best of the few things this place has to offer, such as sunken shipwrecks, buried treasures, and mine shafts. Will I be able to turn this desolate wasteland into a more hospitable place for me to thrive, or will these harsh and lacking conditions leave me buried like the very treasures that I seek for resources? Watch until the end to find out. But first, if you do go on to enjoy my content and you are new to the channel, it would mean so much to me if you subscribed, because we are on the crazy journey to hit 1 million subscribers by the end of 2022, and I need your help. Also, if we do get this video to 20,000 likes, then I will do another 100 days for this series. And one last thing, I have a brand new Linktree link in the description down below where you can find links to me on all social medias in one convenient area, including my brand new second YouTube channel, my Twitter, and my merch. And it would be awesome if you could all go and check them out. Anyways, let's survive for 100 days, starting with day 1. On the first day, I spawned in on this beautiful mountainous sandy beach area, and a lot of things were going through my mind. How was I going to find food? How was I going to find wood, resources? And that is when I saw my first saving grace. In the distance, there was a beached shipwreck that was full of wood and hopefully some loot. So I slowly made my way down the hill to save as much hunger as possible, and I used the shallow water to swim over to the shipwreck, and while swimming, I noticed this crazy looking underwater cave to the side of me, which reminded me, this world was a 1.18 world, which means underneath this desolate beach wasteland were massive caves full of loot and dangers, which were going to make this world insane. But before we got to all that, I first needed the basics. So after finally getting to the shipwreck, I noticed that it was a little more buried than I expected it to be, so after punching enough of the wood, stop laughing, I used what I had gotten to make a crafting bench and some basic wooden tools to make this a lot more efficient. And after excavating enough of the sand and wood, I finally struck my first chest that had a crisp PSA 10 diamond inside, along with a bunch of iron that would make my life so much easier, along with some free lapis that I couldn't really complain about. After looting this chest, I knew this boat had to have at least one more chest ripe for me to borrow, so I made myself an iron axe to replace that gross wooden one, and I went absolutely ham on all of the wood. Again, stop laughing. On top of that, while I was digging to find the second treasure chest, I found some easy exposed iron that I decided to make an iron pickaxe to grab, so that way I could have it to make myself a full set of iron armor in the near future. Anyways, after digging enough, I finally made my way to the bowels of the ship, which yes, that is what they're called, I think. I grabbed my treasure map to reveal the super nearby buried treasure, and I kid you not, the very first piece of sand that I dug to search for this treasure chest had the chest beneath it. My mind was blown. This was a sign that this world was going to be nice to me, or at least I had hoped. So I collected all of the loot from the chest, including the chest itself because I was wood poor, and I spent the rest of this day exploring more, looking for some more resources, until I found myself dealing with nighttime. As the sun was going down, I found an abandoned nether portal with 2 blocks of free gold, and I kind of just chilled here until the sun came up, because I didn't really want to deal with the armies of mobs down below, and I didn't really have the supplies to go caving yet. But hey, while I was up here, I did make myself an iron chestplate. So, overall, day 1, very successful. On day 2, after the sound of burning mobs had stopped in the morning, I made my way down from my sad hiding spot for the night, and I took on my first spider, which was one of the few ways that I had to actually get wool to make myself a comfy bed to sleep in. But of course, this guy dropped nothing but his eye. However, that was okay, because today I found myself another shipwreck, and after doing some more digging, the first chest had enough iron for me to make a new helmet and a pair of Heelys. Unfortunately though, I was still part of the No Pants gang, so I continued my search for more loot by digging through the rest of the shipwreck while also collecting the wood until I had found my second chest, which had a compass inside. So if I needed to, I could now find my way back to world spawn. On top of this, there was also a brand new treasure map inside, along with some more pretty dank loot. So after borrowing all the stuff from the treasure chest, I went to check out the new map, and I was pretty much nowhere near it. So instead, I used the vantage point that I was currently at to look around my surroundings for the next structure that I was going to loot. And looky what I see in the distance, a brand new shipwreck. So after making my way over to it, it turned out to be a real submerged shipwreck, which was ironically kind of rare now if you think about it. So I swam down into the shipwreck to collect my new free loot, and I finally found some replantable food. Not gonna lie, was starting to get a little scared there. Also, while I was down here, I may have drowned just a little, but luckily I had some cooked fish to heal my way out of that. Anyways, now that I was done looting and the sun was once again going down, I just hung out on the ship throughout the night while stealing all of the wood, and I finally made myself a pair of pants. If only I'd wear them in real life now. On day 3, first thing in the morning, I set out from the small boat platform in search of the 2 buried treasure chests that I had maps for. But first, I had to hunt down any and all spiders that were still here from the nighttime because they were not allowed to exist near me and I needed their string, which I only ended up getting one of. The things I do for string. Anyways, though, shortly after ending that spider's entire career, I stumbled upon the first X marks the spot for my treasure maps, and this chest was busted. I found 2 more diamonds inside and a ton of iron and gold. If I kept this loot spree going, I was going to be very rich by the end of these 100 days. Anyways, with all of that treasure stuffed into my struggling inventory, I continued on until I found this massive, crazy looking 1.18 cave that had its own water park and a mine shaft down in the center. And that's when I decided this was going to be my base for now. And maybe I could turn this place into something crazy looking. So I jumped into the water so I could begin exploring and hopefully get enough cobwebs for a bed before it became nighttime and, mobs started raining down on me. And let me tell you, this cave system was insane. This place blew my mind. There were so many ores, and the mine shaft became this massive source of wood. So I spent the rest of my day down here carefully exploring and hunting down cobwebs so I could finally make myself a bed. And by the time the sun had gone down, I was ready to not be myself in real life and actually get some sleep. After waking up on the 4th day, I wandered around the safe part of this cave opening and searched for more iron and coal so I could make more torches to make this place significantly less scary. And after getting some coal, I placed out 2 furnaces to begin smelting, and I made myself some torches that I began placing around this not at all safe area that was technically now my base. And while doing this, I started to notice a kind of trend of what kind of mobs were spawning on the mineshaft paths. Creepers. There were lots of creepers. I began taking them on like a small brain until I remembered that, I should probably make a shield just in case, unless I wanted to explode, which as much as I would love to do that, I'm going to go ahead and say not today. Sorry. Anyways, though, after making my shield, I wanted to set out and explore the mineshaft, but I still basically had no food, so I placed out the little dirt that I had in my inventory in this awful looking farm. After that, I made 2 buckets using my iron, and I grabbed some sources of water to fill up the center so I could now plant my potatoes and carrots. And just like that, my sad, jank little farm had begun. And now the only problem is my lack of patience. So I began exploring the mine shafts anyways, even without the food, in hopes of the skeletons dropping some bones, so that way I could speed up and expand my farm production. And out of all the skeletons that I managed to take down, I got one to drop me a singular bone. Yay. At this point, my health was getting super low, and I didn't have enough food to keep doing this, so I went back to cash in my 1 bone bounty on the crops, and I kid you not, during this, I was almost filzed by this baby zombie. But he couldn't handle the sheer power of my massive wrinkly brain, so I took him down in honor of Father Minecraft himself. And while I was at it, I also slayed one of his 2 bodyguards. However, the second one was a zombie villager, which, if you know me by now, I needed this zombie villager. So I crafted myself a boat really quick, and I lured him inside, and I built him a nice little safety platform, so that way he won't burn during the day. This guy was going to become my first villager. On day numero 5, don't hate me, I woke up to a surprise zombie attack, and I handled this so poorly that it costed me my last 2 cooked fish. And now I was at the mercy of potatoes and carrots. So today I made myself a goal. Because this place was still way too dangerous, I began going around and placing torches in all of the dark spots, and of course while I was at it, I had to fight tons of creepers with my bare hands. But overall, today was a massive success. I lit up the huge area next to the main exposed mineshaft paths, while also stealing all of the ores that I found. And after finishing some of the main area, I got a little adventurous and I began exploring the super dark part of the mineshaft that was closer to my main base area, because throughout the days, random mobs kept pouring out of there. Anyways, while I was exploring inside of here, I got lucky enough to find my first minecart chest, and this boy had some glowberries inside, which might end up being a good source of food. Here's a note from future me. Glowberries are not a good source of food. They are worthless. Just saying. But overall, this minecart wasn't that bad. There were the glowberries, there was a name tag inside, and another fresh and never frozen diamante. And after finding this minecart, I spent the rest of the night lighting up more of the mine shafts nearby, and I finally struck gold with this room full of dirt that I could add to my farm, so maybe it would become good eventually. On day 6, while continuing to explore, I stumbled on this area that goes down so unbelievably far that it blew my mind. Like, I know 1.18 has been out for a while now, and I know we've seen stuff about it for so long, but it still just blows my mind every time. And if you look all the way down in the bottom of this cave, there are exposed diamonds. So I need to be down there, like, now. So I began making my way down to the bottom the safe way by lighting up areas that I passed through, and halfway down I had stumbled upon a second diamond ore. And after making my way all the way over to the second diamond, it turns out it was only a vein of 1, which kind of sucks, but you know what? I will take what I can get. So now that I had my extra diamond, it was time to make my way down to the very bottom to gather the other diamonds that I had found. And this place was nuts. These caves were a whole new experience. There were mobs everywhere, and it took so many torches to light this place up, but overall I ended up with a couple of diamonds from that first vein I saw, and I found another random diamond just chilling nearby. And I know I keep saying this, and I probably will keep saying this, but this cave system, I don't feel like it will ever get old. This place just blows my mind, and this is only just one cave. There's other types of caves. This is probably one of the best updates in Minecraft history. I'm still gonna say that. On day 7, I continued exploring around the bottom of this cave, and honestly, I could spend the rest of these 100 days just being down here. I ran around lighting up more areas while collecting any gold and redstone that I could find, and for some weird reason, this area with water coming down from the ceiling turned into some kind of glow squid farm, because they just kind of kept falling down and drowning on land. But hey, free drops are free drops. Anyways, while I was down here desperately filling my inventory with anything else I could, I ran into this horde of skeletons that I of course wanted to take down for more bones for my farm. However, there was just so many of these guys and they got me super low on health, and it just wasn't worth the risk at this point. But at least while I was down here, I did end up finding another desperate source of food, rotten flesh. I was able to slowly heal my way back to safety, and at this point I came to the conclusion that I should probably just go back up because I was kind of pushing my luck, especially without unenchanted iron armor. But hey, while I was down here, I did end up getting 5 more diamonds overall, so this trip was a big success. So I spent the rest of my night making my way back up, and once I got home, one of my carrots and one of my potatoes were fully grown. So it was safe to say that my food problems were definitely solved now, right? I mean, in case you didn't know, that was sarcasm. On day 8, now that I was back home and I had more than a stack of dirt and some bones, I decided to begin expanding my cruddy little farm. I added 3 more rows of dirt to each side, farmified all of the blocks, and I used the bones to quick grow most of the carrots so I could fill in the farm as much as possible. And after that, I placed out all 8 of my glowberries under some cobblestone so they could begin growing more food. And no sarcasm this time, my food issue was soon going to be over. At least I can hope. But anyways, now that my farms were the best that they could be, it was back to exploring and lighting up the surrounding area to make it even more or less dangerous. And of course, while doing this, I mined every iron and copper that I could find, because, I state this every video, I am a hoarder. And this hoarder ended up venturing a little too deep while hunting for more loot. And I found myself back in that super dark area full of dark corners. And while I was down here, there were mobs everywhere. However, since my food situation wasn't the greatest still, I decided to instead be smart and go back up for the night. And good news, everyone! Please somebody get that reference. My glowberries were already growing, and they seemed to produce food super fast. For the next 2 days straight, days 9 and 10, I continued my mission to make this area safer. I began exploring the part of the mineshaft that was over by the pools of water up above, while adding torches to every square inch of the place, so I had no more surprises while just trying to exist down here. And while doing this, I found so much coal, so much iron, and for some weird reason, copper. Like lots and lots of copper. There was copper everywhere. But by the time it was the night of day 10, this whole area was finally lit up and there were no more mobs to be seen. Except for these surprise pillagers. Even when this place is safe, it isn't really safe. I cannot win. So I slayed each one of this trio of turds, and the last guy was just chilling in my boat with the zombie. So I had to be extra careful that he didn't delete my zombie villager from existence. But after a couple of quick swings, the pillager plague was over. At least for now. So before anything else could push my luck, I went to sleep for the night. On day 11, now that the surface area of the cave was more safe, it was time to delve deep in search for more diamonds and lava. Because normally I could trade with Fletchers for emeralds, but I was going to need the Nether or a reliable source of wood first. Either way, I wanted diamond armor, and I was going to get it. So I made my way down to the one area that I haven't yet explored, which was the huge hole to the left of the exposed mineshaft. And this area was pretty barren when it came to resources, but something felt kind of off to me. I heard zombies nearby, and not just like a couple of random zombies like her. Something was different. I was pretty sure that I had found a dungeon, so I continued lighting up each cave and mining the resources as I went until I hit cobblestone and mossy cobblestone, which meant only one thing. I had found myself a zombie spawner. And inside this dungeon was a single chest that contained both a god apple and a regular golden apple. I was now living large like Larry. After looting this chest, I lit up the zombie spawner just in case I wanted to come back and use it for something in the future, and I continued going deeper into the caves. And not too long after leaving that dungeon, I stumbled upon 2 more diamond ores, which I was probably going to use for a diamond pickaxe, so I could collect any obsidian I see to make a nether portal. And luckily, not far from this first vein of diamonds, being guarded by a squad of 2 creepers and skeletons, was the 3rd diamond that I needed to finish my new pickaxe. So now all I needed to find was obsidian. And at this point, I was going further and further underground, and I was really starting to feel uneasy. But then it happened. I ran out of torches, and coal basically no longer spawns down here, so I was pretty much as far as I could go safely. But that was okay because I had finally hit the lava pool that I needed. So I crafted myself a new diamond pickaxe, placed down my water, and I sat here mining obsidian while listening to the apparent thunderstorm that was going on above ground. And after mining about 20 obsidian, I began retracing my steps all the way back home until finally, at the end of day 14, I had found myself back at the surface. And after dumping all of my loot into the chest, it was safe to say I was now becoming pretty stacked. For the next day, day 15, I started out by harvesting all of my potatoes and carrots almost fully for the first time, and after finishing, I used all of my bones to mass bone meal more carrots until I finally ended up with a spare stack in 12 carrots, which means I was now kind of ready to go to the Nether, kinda. So I grabbed my obsidian and I placed it all out on the nearby part of the mineshaft, and I lit the portal, and I jumped through eagerly to only be greeted by one of the worst nether spawns I have ever had. I found myself inside of this tiny little sky ravine thing floating over a crimson forest and a soul sand valley with no fortresses or bastions in sight. So I did what I had to do, and I began bridging over towards the soul sand valley in the hopes of finding a Sugoi fortress. Except instead I was greeted with a bastion, which, to be honest, I'll still take, but like, not what I need. So I jumped down to figure out how to get over to it, and while looking around, I saw it in the opposite direction. There was a nether fortress just hanging out in the distance, way off in the lava. So instead of risking my life in a bastion with no bow, which is a terrible idea, I instead decided to go the opposite way. So on day 16, I began my trip in the opposite direction towards the Nether fortress, and honestly, doing this with iron armor really sucked. I first found myself in the Crimson Forest where I had to be super careful while fighting these skeletons and sword piglins, and to top it all off, there were hoglins who hit like dump trucks. But at this point, they were my only source of meat and leather, so kinda works out in the end, and I kind of needed to fight them. I just really didn't want to. But anyways, now was not the time for that because I was on a mission. So I continued my way through the Crimson Forest while making a path of torches to find my way back, and I slowly dug my way through the netherrack that was closest to the fortress until I finally was able to build my way up and over. And let me tell you, I was not prepared to be here. I was greeted by 3 blazes who did half of my health in damage by only hitting me 1 time and catching me on fire. So I had to take this fight very slow by blocking every shot with my shield, and by the time the last blaze was down, I ended up victorious with a meager 1 blaze rod to call my trophy. And you would think that I got better from here, but you would definitely be wrong. Because in the seconds that I was taking just to catch my breath, I noticed the next problem. The one time I didn't want it to happen, this fortress had spawned so many wither skeletons that I had to be very careful. On top of that, I had to crit each one of them so I didn't hit the zombie piglin that was also near me. Overall, I was pretty scared while doing this because all it would take for one of these guys to put me in the earth was about 2 hits and the wither effect. However, today was not their day because I flawlessly yeeted each one of them back to the afterlife while surprisingly getting the last one to drop a wither skull with no looting whatsoever. On day 17, after clearing out the remaining wither skeletons, I realized just how cursed this fortress really was. It turned out the path went straight through a basalt biome and it was full of lava. So I began struggling my way over top of the lava while bridging and being extra careful along the way until I noticed this giant magma cube was following me from behind. And honestly, the situation couldn't have gone any worse. I was desperately trying to get through the lava before he would knock me in, and I ran out of blocks midway through. So I tried grabbing some quick blocks off of the edges, and I ended up revealing even more lava. So I was just stuck here fighting for my life. But after only 1 swing of my sword, it broke. So I was now stuck smacking this dude with an axe as a final stand effort to stop me from being the Minecraft equivalent of Anakin Skywalker. But luckily, I managed to play my cards just right and I survived this awful situation. That is, until I grabbed more blocks to continue building my bridge, where I walked straight into lava that got me super close to dying. So close that I was ready to use my golden apple as a last-ditch effort to save my life. But luckily, it didn't come to that and the burning effect wore off, so I just kind of sat here and gave myself a couple of minutes to eat some carrots to slowly heal before I continued pushing on into the fortress. And of course, I couldn't even do that because a couple of blazes kept shooting pop shots at me in the distance, so I just said screw it and I headed into the fortress anyways, and this place was even more cursed than the entrance. There were frozen lava sources everywhere and not many different paths to choose from. However, things did end up working out anyways because I quickly found 2 chests that had some nether wart along with some other loot inside next to not 1, but 2 of those staircases that had some free real estate nether wart and soul sand. So overall, this was a mission success. I now just needed some more blaze rods and I would be free to leave this forever cursed place. So I spent the next 2 days, days 18 and 19, exploring around the fortress. And not gonna lie, this place did end up being pretty busted. There were chests at every corner that were full of iron, gold, and diamond horse armor, along with more nether wart, and inside of one of them I even found 2 more diamonds. This place was so stacked, but with great loot comes great inventory problems, because I was once again struggling to stuff all of these shiny things into my inventory. I was like a caveman. Not to mention, this place had so many wither skeletons, like so many, I'd see them in my nightmares. Every time I would go one way and come back, I would run into a pile of them. And one of those times, I literally had to panic spam blocks before I got cornered by like 6 of them. I barely got out of here alive. Overall, this place ended up being very massive and very dangerous. By the time I was pretty much ready to leave, it had become day 20, and both my shield and my axe were about to break, so I was finally going to head back, but I still didn't have that many blaze rods. And that's when I finally found what I needed. out of this whole fortress, I didn't find one until now, a blaze spawner. And luckily I had enough iron that I had gotten from the chests to replace both my axe and my shield. So I placed down a crafting bench and I replaced both of them quickly before beginning what I would like to call the great struggle. Because this blaze spawner was cracked. The blazes kept spawning way too often, and they did insane amounts of damage, which took forever to heal because of how little saturation carrots actually give you. So after my struggle to get only 14 blaze rods, I decided to call it for the day. I had everything that I needed for now, so I backtracked my way through the fortress until I had one of the most terrifying experiences in Minecraft that I've ever had. This piglin with a sharpness sword snuck up behind me and two-shot my health down to 1 heart. And I was now stuck here with nothing to do but block, because the second I let go of that block button, it was game over. And honestly, I thought I was done for here. I thought I was going to die until the bow boy behind him shot him out of existence. And I was given a chance to live, but I wasn't free yet, because I now had to deal with that guy instead. However, after 2 swift attacks and some pretty quality blocks, may I add, I yeeted him off of the hill and he died to death. So I dug myself a quick hole for safety and I sat in here just eating carrots, waiting to regen health while daydreaming of no longer being in the Nether. But anyways, once I had healed enough, I was out of there, and with perfect timing too, because by the time I made it home on day 21, I was literally down to my last carrot. That trip was way too close for comfort. However, I did come out of there with a ton of loot. On the next day, day 22, now that I had all of the nether supplies that I needed, I began by crafting myself 2 brewing stands, and I began smelting glass for potions, because today was the day that I was going to cure our zombie villager friend. So that way I could begin trading iron for some full diamond armor. Except I had a problem. I was missing 2 things to make a fermented spider eye. I needed sugarcane and I needed more spider eyes because the ones that I had found earlier in the world I had thrown away for inventory space. Nice. So today I was going on a journey. I began preparing for it by using the tons of bone and bone blocks that I had gotten from the Nether to mass farm more carrots until I ended up with about 3 stacks. And after that, I cleaned out my inventory, once again replaced my almost broken shield, and I gathered all of the things that I was going to need for this journey, including my bed, just in case. Anyways, now that I was prepared, I began scaling the side of this cave that I haven't left in like 20 days, literally, and before reaching the top, I was distracted by another dark area that it turns out I had missed. This place had both spiders and coal inside, which were 2 things that I desperately needed. So I took out both of the spiders, and the second one dropped me the spider eye that I had needed. After this, I continued making my way out of this place until, in classic PainDomination fashion, I was distracted by this mini surface tunnel full of more coal, because the crazy thing is, in 1.18, coal actually becomes kind of rare in worlds like these. And I was finding tons of it, because it turned out that the surface caves pretty much never ended. And by the time I finally realized it, it had already become nighttime again. So I went back down to my base to dump off a bunch of the ores that I had gathered, including the coal, and I instead slept for the night. Tomorrow, the journey will really begin, I swear. Okay, so it was now day 23, and today I was actually going to begin my journey, I swear. Even though the only thing that I now needed was sugarcane, which, to be honest, I could probably just walk up to the surface and get within seconds, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I missed seeing the surface. We're going on a journey. So anyways, I set off in a random direction away from my base, and I very quickly found the sugarcane that I had needed because, I mean, you know, it's literally everywhere, but there was no way I was going to cut this journey short. I continued grabbing any sugarcane that I could find so I could make an enchantment table setup in the future when I returned home, and now this had become a journey for sunken ships because I was in the mood for more treasure. And not far after traveling, I had found my very first one that was pretty well buried, I'd say. In fact, this ship was in such disarray that I wasn't even sure if there was a chest at all. But after way too much digging, I finally did find it, and it had some random food and coal inside, which was kind of trash. So I continued on to the next ship that I had seen in the not so far distance, and upon getting there, I was greeted with a chestless hunk of wood floating in the water with no loot to be seen. I had been scammed. But that was okay because after stealing some of the wood anyways, I continued on towards another ship that I saw even further in the distance to the left, and by the time I got there, it had once again become nighttime. And there ended up being an abandoned nether portal nearby. So to dodge all the monsters, I placed down my bed and I slept away the night under the stars. On day 24, after waking up, I began excavating the nearby ship, and it ended up being another one of those single chest garbage boats with a bunch of subpar junk loot. So I left the boat behind, disappointed, to move on to the portal. And once arriving at the portal, the chest here was absolutely perfect because I had found myself a second golden apple that I could use to cure a second villager, because it's not like I'm getting any apples from all those trees nearby or anything, you know? On top of that, there was free gold in the chest and a nearby gold block. This portal was stonks. So after stuffing all that gold into my inventory, it was back to my search for more ships, and I ended up finding this gross birch and oak wood ship that looked just so awful. Birch is such a gross wood. The planks, not the actual birch logs. Birch logs can be used here and there. Birch planks are gross. Let me know in the comments which wood you guys prefer. Not as an innuendo though. But anyways, that ended up being a disguise for all of the dank loot that it held inside. This ship ended up having 2 chests. One had 3 emeralds and a bunch of iron inside, and the other one had some books inside that reminded me of one of the few ways I actually had to finish an enchantment setup in this world, while also having a brand new treasure map that ended up being not that far away. And this thing had a whole bunch more iron, gold, plus another Heart of the Sea, along with some TNT, which is not bad, but like, these chests can easily have diamonds inside, so I kind of feel like I got scammed again. For day 25, I had a mega productive day. I started out by finding a brand new nether portal that had 2 blocks of gold, along with some mediocre loot inside of the chest, and not far from that was this crazy sunken boat that was buried in the side of this mountain that didn't really have much except for a new treasure map. So I followed the map to this nearby exposed cave, and the chest was, I kid you not, just kind of chilling in this small pile of sand. And this boy had a diamond inside, along with the typical other loot that you would expect. At this point, my inventory was getting pretty crammed, so I began making my way back home to begin curing my villager. And it turns out I had gone much further than I thought. While heading home, I stopped by a pool of lava for some easy fuel to smelt all of my iron, and I continued retracing my steps home, that is, until the sun began to set and I found some more shipwrecks that I hadn't seen before. So, of course, I had to explore them. So on day 26, I ran up to this super exposed ship that had some more free books and another treasure map that wasn't too far from the actual ship. Except while tracking it down, I saw both an abandoned portal and a second shipwreck in the distance. At this point, I felt like Courage the Cowardly Dog, because the things I do for loot. That was pretty good, come on. No! So anyways, the first thing I did was swim over to the second shipwreck, and there was some decent stuff inside of these chests, but most importantly, another treasure map. And this treasure map led me over to a nearby area underwater, and after a little bit of struggling to find it, along with breaking another shovel, I finally hit the chest, which had more gold, TNT, and some other loot inside. And at this point, there was one more thing left to do before actually heading home. So I grabbed my first treasure map and I began tracking it down. And big surprise, it led me to yet another shipwreck that I was contractually obligated to loot. But first, X marks the spot. I began digging out a square area looking for this treasure, and while down here, it had already become nighttime. So before some creeper came over to kamikaze me, I grabbed my bed and I slept in a hole for the night. And surprisingly, it was pretty cozy down here. Kind of reminds me of home. On the beginning of day 27, after picking up my bed, I continued looking for the chest until I stumbled across it pretty easily. And this boy had another diamond inside along with even more fish. It's kind of ironic how treasure hunting ended up being another source of food for me. But you know what? I'll take it. So after looting this chest, I was ready to move on to the next ship, and something seemed familiar about this area. It turned out that I had already looted it, and I was pretty much back home. It looks like I wasn't going to end up needing my coordinates after all. After only a short walk, I was finally back home and ready to begin brewing. So the first thing I did was throw those buckets of lava into the furnaces to smelt some more glass and iron, and after that I crafted my one and only spider eye into a fermented spider eye that I used to brew a splash potion of weakness. And now that I had what I needed, I yeeted it at the zombie's face and I stuffed him with a golden apple. And now that all I had to do was wait until he would cure, I decided to use this time to finally begin stealing all of the wood from the mine shaft. That is, until I got the achievement Witch Doctor, which meant only one thing. My villager friend was ready. So I crafted my blast furnace and I plopped it down next to him so I could begin trading. And for some reason, his trades were only 1 emerald trades, which was not normal at all. So I began trading with him while simultaneously beginning my collection of iron pants, apparently, until something busted happened. Literally all of his trades only costed 1 single emerald, and the leggings had protection 2 on them. So I bought the pair of diamond leggings with protection 2, and at this point I was out of both emeralds and the coal that I needed to trade for more emeralds. And I was terrified that his trades would randomly go back to normal, so I did what I had to do. I began building up the walls of the cave to get any and all of the inconvenient coal nearby. After getting about 20, I went back down to buy the boots, and these things had feather falling 3 and protection 2. This villager was a literal saint sent down from Cthulhu himself. So I bought 2 of the boots, made myself an anvil, and I combined them together for that sweet protection 3. However, I was not done here. I needed more. So I continued exploring parts of the cave for more coal until I saw something insane on the morning of day 28. There was an exposed wall of cobblestone that meant only one thing. I had found another dungeon. So the first thing I did was go back to smelt some logs into charcoal so I could make some more torches without wasting the coal that I needed. And right after that, I wasted the coal anyways because I wasn't paying attention. Nice. Anyways though, with my torches in hand, I went back over to the dungeon and it ended up being a skeleton spawner, which does turn out to be super useful for the farms. I fought off the couple of skeletons guarding it and I lit everything up so I could come back to use it as a farm in the future. After that, I continued looking around for more coal, and with 1.18 ore generation, I was having terrible luck. Whenever I did find coal, it was always just a couple of pieces and not like a big vein. So this was not going exactly as I had planned. So I went back to the villager to trade in what coal I did find, and after looking up for coal, I saw the first wandering trader that had spawned into the world. And of course, he was all the way at the top, and he had spawned in at the worst time when I was emerald poor. If this guy ended up having saplings, I was going to need even more coal, even faster. So I quickly climbed my way up to the top of the cave to check out his trades, and what do you know? This guy had oak wood saplings. So I quickly sprung into action. I built myself a crafting bench so I could quickly craft a boat that I used to stop him from accidentally yeeting himself into my chasm. Weird sentence, I know. Anyways, now that he was in place, I didn't have much time before he was going to despawn. So I dug through the sand down to these 2 exposed coal spots that I had been eyeing for a while now. And these were apparently god tier because there was so much coal. After mining both veins, I ended up with 61 coal, which was enough to get 5 emeralds that I was going to need to buy myself the sapling. So I went back down to the villager and I traded all of the coal for 7 emeralds total that I used to get myself an oak wood sapling. And I really hope this tree actually dropped more saplings because this one was all I could afford. Anyways, with my mission now accomplished and it being both nighttime and raining, I was going to go to sleep. And then I saw the love of my life. I mean this guy. There was another zombie villager. And this time he was a Fletcher. So instead of sleeping, I spent the rest of the night playing Minesweeper with all of the mobs up top while slowly leading him down the water into the center of the cave. And I had almost lost him to this current of water because of his small, tiny smooth brain. So for now, he was just going to stay still in this little boat over here in this terrible area until he was fully cured. And of course, before I did end up going to bed, I grabbed myself another potion of weakness and an apple, and I cured him on the spot. On day 29, the very first thing I did was use my remaining 2 emeralds to buy another pair of boots, and I combined them together with my protection 3 ones to make the perfect protection 4 feather falling 4 boots that I named Air Jordans because, get it, right? Like feather falling? Anybody? Please, somebody tell me I'm funny. No! Anyways, now that Drip was 50% upgraded, I was back to my hunt for coal. And let me tell you, if you thought that day 27 and day 28 were lucky, just wait until you see today. I first built up to get more of the random coal spots that were over near my second villager, and these spots ended up being busted. Each one of them had more and more coal, and they led me over to this area that sounded crazy full of mobs. And then while I was digging out more of the coal, I hit even more mossy cobble, which meant that I had found a second easy access surface dungeon. And this one had 2 more chests inside with some random loot, including 2 more name tags. So after looting the dungeon, I cleaned up the rest of the coal in the nearby cave, and I ended up with a stack in 42, which was enough to finish off my diamond armor. So I went back to the first villager to convert all of my coal to emeralds, and the diamond helmet also ended up having protection 2 and unbreaking 3. So I bought the last 2 pieces of armor that I needed, the helmet and the lame chest piece that only had fire protection 2. And just like that, I was now all dripped out in full diamond armor. And this was probably one of the quickest ways I have ever gotten a full set like this. So before finishing off the day, I went to buy 3 more diamond helmets to get that perfect protection 4. And the guy refused to sell me the 4th one because it had already become nighttime. And I guess he just wasn't a huge fan of overtime. So instead, I just went to sleep for the day. Overall, very, very successful day. I was living large like Larry. On the next day, day 30, my armorer friend hadn't yet refreshed his trade, so instead I went over to my new villager friend to try to get him to join the first guy. However, the water was still all over the place and it was not making this easy, so I had to block it off in the most unappealing way possible, with ugly, mismatched blocks. Anyways though, once the water was finally clear, I had a clever idea to lure this guy over without even needing stairs for him to climb up with a boat. I crafted myself a lectern job block that I used to slowly bait him over until he walked right up next to my armorer friend, where I placed a boat down to easily trap him. And now that he was 100% my new friend and not being held captive, I could repeatedly break and place his lectern so I could get my mending book. And for some reason, this guy's discounts were still completely busted just like the first guy's. As sad as it is to say, I had to pass up on a 1 emerald efficiency 4 trade, which honestly, even reading back these notes, I still regret. I should have gotten that enchantment. Doesn't matter though. After skipping that book, I finally found mending, and for some reason the discount wasn't nearly as good as before. This guy wanted 11 emeralds for mending, which isn't terrible, but it also isn't great in comparison to what I could have gotten. However, I have learned my lesson from the better Minecraft world, and I didn't want to risk taking years to get mending again, so I sucked it up and I bought myself a bookshelf from him to lock in his trade for the mending book. And now that he was all set to go, I spent the rest of the day farming trees, starting with the 1 sapling that I had traded for. I chopped down the first tree, and that had given me 4 more saplings. So it was now official. I now had an overworld renewable source of wood. So I planted the second tree that I had bone mealed, and this one ended up being what I like to call a super tree. And this boy dropped even more saplings than the first tree. By the time it was done decaying, I had gotten 23 more wood saplings and 2 freshly picked apples. Things were going really well. So for the next 3 days, days 31 through 33, I spent this time catching up around my base. I used more of my buckets of lava to smelt more iron for XP, and I began door diving underwater looking for any and all coal, iron, or anything really that I could use to trade to get more XP. Because at this point, I needed to be level 13 so I could combine the rest of my helmets together to make that protection for Unbreaking 3 boy. During these days, because I was looking for so much XP, I also made the decision to run over to the nearby surface pool of lava and grab a ton of buckets of lava for fuel, because it wasn't like my fuel shortage was getting any better. And after that, I spent the rest of day 33 just kind of chilling in the rain, collecting smelted items from furnaces until I finally hit level 13, so I combined the 2 helmets together and I named it Big Brain Barrier. Because alliteration is great, and I couldn't really think of another better name. Also, as sad as it is to say, I had to look up the spelling for barrier, because Minecraft text just makes you think that everything you type is spelled wrong, I swear. For day 34, I didn't really know what to do. I needed to begin building my base, but I was going to need some better tools to do that, which meant that I was going to need a lot more XP. So instead of doing that, it was back to the Nether for me. Since I now had full diamond armor with protection, I could survive so much more beatings while here. This place was perfect to get some easy XP. I began heading towards the Nether fortress for some more blaze farming, and I kept stopping every time I saw any free real estate gold or nether quartz ores, because pro tip, nether quartz ores drop insane XP. Anyways, once I finally got back to the fortress, there weren't nearly as many mobs here as before, and it turned out that I missed a second blaze spawner that was literally next to the entrance. And this time, everything was all good because blazes did basically nothing to me. I sat here for the rest of the day taking these guys out to dinner, and by the time I had hit 20 levels, I had gotten 14 more blaze rods, which even without looting was still pretty awful. Fun fact. But while I was here, I did manage to get jumped by wither skeletons while hunting more of the blazes, where my shield ended up breaking. So overall, it was good times. And at this point, my iron tools were almost broken, and without fire resistance, this place was still equally as annoying as before. So I kind of just said screw it, and I left. But not before being attacked by even more gatekeeping blaze that were guarding the exit. I was once again done with this place. On day 35, after returning back home and cleaning out my inventory, I decided to start scoping out my area more so I could start building an actual base, but like the Giga Chad gamer that I am, I instead got distracted again by exploring more of the dark parts of the cave system where I found even more coal. I spent most of this day just kind of hanging around these caves, mining more coal until I had enough to trade for emeralds, so I could begin buying those mending books for my pieces of armor. Towards the end of the day, I went back to my villagers and I bought 2 new mending books, and I used some of the XP that I had gotten in the Nether to add it to the 2 pieces of armor that already had protection 4. I put it on both my helmet and my Air Jordans, and that's pretty much all I did for today, because I really didn't want to build in this cave. I had no inspiration whatsoever. So on day 36, the first thing I did was swim up the waterfalls in my cave so I could finally block off the water flow and hopefully turn this dump into a house. However, after all of the water had receded, I kind of began realizing just how much work that I was really going to have to do to fix this place and make it nice. And without having a nice pickaxe to collect enough resources to make the walls and floor nice, the place was honestly kind of a lost cause. So I made the tough decision that instead of building down here, I was instead going to go back up to the surface and find an area to begin making my base. However, at this point it was raining and the sun was already going down because I kind of just wasted the whole day walking around looking at things, deciding what to do. I mean, but hey, at the end of the day, I did end up making an auto smelter for all of the copper that I had wasting space in my chests. So today was not an entire waste. At least I hope. For day 37, since I no longer wanted to live down inside of the massive hole, I began migrating all of my loot inside of my chests up top to the nearby edge, and once all of my items were inside of their new chests, I began searching nearby for the perfect place to make myself a base, until I found this area over by one of the very first shipwrecks that I had ever looted. There was this perfect little center island in the middle of the water with nearby caves, and to top it all off, I was still close enough to this area that I could even go back to my original cave area and utilize the dungeons inside. So for the rest of this day, I wasted more food by running back and forth while delivering all of my stuff to the new work site. And apparently that boat that I had left with the wandering trader in it had evolved into a creeper. Wonder what I should name him. Anyways, I kept delivering my items to their new homes back and forth until the sun had gone down and I was jumped by a literal army of Chad creepers when I was trying to grab the last of my items. But with my shield by my side, none of these betas could match my alpha vibes. So after defeating all of those creepers, I led this new zombie villager that I had found over to my new home so I could begin breeding more villagers. And once I finally got him over there, I plopped him in the boat and I built him a nice little cobble shack without walls to protect him from the sun. And just like that, all of my stuff was now in my new area to build a house, and I was already working on villagers. So that way I didn't have to get the first 2 all the way up out of that hole, because that was going to suck. To begin day 38, I searched my chest for a potion of weakness to yeet at our new villager friend, and after that I stuffed his face hole with a fresh golden apple. And now that I was waiting for him to cure, I used some of the remaining dirt that I had to go around placing saplings so that way I could begin amassing tons of wood to begin my brand new island oasis base. And now that everything here was waiting to either cure or grow, I headed back to the hole in the ground to figure out how I was going to get those first 2 villagers all the way over here. And that's when things got crazy, because I kid you not, while I was double checking my old chest for remaining items, a wandering simp spawned before my eyes. And this dude had both jungle and spruce wood saplings. He was literally sent to me by the god of wood himself. So the first thing I did was quickly push him into a hole to think how I was going to get those emeralds as fast as I could, and that's when I saw it in the distance. Not only did I get a trader to visit me today, there was also a group of pillagers. And honestly, I would love to use them to start a raid, but without the right supplies, I would probably be a goner. So instead, I quickly ran back to my base to get more coal for some quick emeralds, and that's when I realized that I didn't have enough coal to buy them. So I concocted a quick plan B, where I crafted an anvil so I would instead boat him and name him, which would stop him from despawning, until I heard the glorious sound of a villager curing behind me. So I quickly moved on to plan C instead, and I grabbed all of the woods from my chests that I could use to mass craft a ton of sticks, and I dug through what little gravel that I had to get some more flint to make myself a fletching table that I used to trade with this guy as much as I could for a total of 17 emeralds, which didn't end up being that great, so I decided to still go with backup plan B. So I placed down the anvil and I named the name tag Khajiit because this guy definitely had wares and I definitely was going to have coin in the future to spend. And after that, I ran all the way back over to trade for 2 spruce saplings and a single jungle one. And after that, I put this guy in a boat and I named him, except now that it was becoming nighttime, I could not take the risk of him becoming a snack. So I've quickly fled back to my bed as fast as I could, as if my life depended on it, while making it there just in time to avoid mob spawning. Today was a trip. On day 39, I headed back over to my old base to check on Khajiit, and this guy never disappoints. He was still here, standing strong. But to his disappointment, I wasn't here for him today. I was here to collect my remaining loot from down below, while also checking on my first 2 villagers that I really didn't feel like saving from this pit. But anyways, I stole all of the furnaces full of copper, which gave me some pretty dank XP, may I add, and I stuffed all of the crops and the dirt from them into my now very full inventory so I could head back home with the remainder of my stuff. And before actually leaving, just in case mobs ever did spawn over here, I boxed in Khajiit in his own little prison where no one would bother him until I came back to get more saplings and the cactus that he was offering to trade. Now that Khajiit was safe and I had my loot, I headed back to my base where I planted the 2 spruce trees and 1 jungle trees nearby, which I quickly bone mealed them both, and I began collecting all of the trees in my area while also replanting them. And now this world was beginning to feel at least somewhat normal. Both of the spruce trees had dropped a ton of saplings, so I grew my first mega spruce tree, and the oak trees began dropping a ton of apples that I could use to get more golden apples. So I spent the rest of this night just kind of farming trees, including the mega spruce tree, while also lighting up my whole area with torches. And while I was doing this, a zombie may have gone over to my new villager to turn him into a snack, which, to be honest, I could have probably stopped, but now that I have the opportunity instead, I could just cure him a second time and work towards getting 1-for-1 stick trades. Because I don't care what world I'm in, if there are stick boys, I will abuse their trades for profit. On day 40 after waking up, I placed down the 2 brewing stands from my chest, and I began brewing more splash potions of weakness so I could begin mass curing the brand new Fletcher. And that is exactly what I did. I yeeted a potion at him, fed him a golden apple, and I sat here just kind of babysitting him until he finally cured conveniently when I was messing around with my camera in F1 mode. But anyways, after he cured the second time, I walked far enough away to watch the zombie smack his cheeks once more, and I went back over to cure him yet again. And for the rest of this day, I just kind of went around cutting down and replanting more trees so I could begin transforming this place into a real home, while also searching for more zombie villagers in the distance, and hunting down spiders for spider eyes, and hunting down any endermen that I could find in the hopes of getting ender pearls so we could go to the end to defeat the ender dragon. That is, if end portals even spawn in this world, because not gonna lie, I did not check yet. The next day, day 41, I repeated the same steps as day 40. I cured my villager the second to last time, I waited until he cured, let the zombie go ham on those cheeks, and I cured him one last time while also taking out his new zombie friend. Until he was finally finished curing, so I could level him up and begin making some mad stonks. So after this man had cured for the final time, I kept trading sticks and string with him to get him all the way to Emerald tier, and his enchanted bow only ended up having Unbreaking 1, which was basically useless. I'll take 20. Anyways though, by the time I was finished trading with him, it had become nighttime, and I was back on the hunt for more spiders and endermen, and hopefully another zombie villager. I went around wrecking the KD ratios of any zombies, skeletons, and creepers that I ran into, and in the distance, I saw the love of my life. I mean, kinda. I had found my second zombie villager for the new base, because who was I kidding? I am not moving the first two all the way here anytime soon. So I lured this guy over to the villager platform while also fighting off an absolute army of zombies in the process until I got him exactly where I wanted him, inside a boat along with a buy one get one free deal because he had another zombie friend inside. And that's where I had the huge brain idea to solve two problems at once. I was going to cure this guy to make him into both a farmer and for one trades, so I could not only breed with other villagers, but also have it become a solution for my cheap food issue by supplying me with some quality golden carrots. So on day 42, I began the day by brewing more potions of weakness while waiting for my zombie villager to finally cure. I placed a chest nearby their little hut that I filled with all of the new potions of weakness, and after the zombie cured, I gave him a composter so he would become a farmer, whether he liked it or not. And I began trading with this guy to level him up, and just like that, my apple problem was also now gone. I spent the rest of this day waiting for my stick guy to actually work while waiting for my farmer to cure a second time, and after he cured, his trades were already crazy efficient. It was now down to 9 carrots per emerald. So I bought a ton of cookies, and I maxed out his level for golden carrots, which were already at 1 emerald for 3 trades. So I bought as many as I could, distanced myself again while these two had a romantic moment yet again, and I cured him one last time before dispatching his friend and going to sleep for the night. On day 43, after my farmer had cured for the final time, he decided to have 2-for-1 carrot emerald trades, which kind of sucks because I thought they would be 1-for-1, but honestly, I didn't feel like getting another zombie and curing him again, so for now, this was fine. So I began trading for more emeralds, and I traveled back to the wandering trader Khajiit, who was luckily still there, and I got myself 3 cactuses from him because I mean honestly, I don't know why. I don't really need the cactus, but I might in the future, you never really know. But anyways, after getting back, both of my villagers refused to trade anymore because they weren't yet free, and since I wasn't ready to make them a breeder yet, I just kind of spent the rest of the night clearing out some layers of sand, so this whole area was a little more flat and ready to have me build a base on it. The next day, day 44, I decided it was finally time to start working on my base. So the first thing I started to do was plant more super spruce trees all over the area where my house would be because I was going to make a 3-floor high treehouse base. So the first thing I did after laying out a good amount of trees was build a central staircase up to the ground floor area by using spruce wood logs, spruce planks, staircases, and fences. And as it started to become nighttime again, I added some classy lanterns to each of the side pillars on both sides so that way nothing would spawn up here and they also looked really classy. And after that, I continued placing out the perimeter for the first floor that would wrap around all the different trees and have this kind of natural flow to it. I normally build things super symmetrically, and for this world, I wanted this to be kind of like a freeform build. I wanted it to be the complete opposite of that. I continued building throughout the night while adding fences and pillars around the edges, along with more lanterns, until it started pouring down raining, which unlike real life, I'm not really a big fan of rain inside of Minecraft, so I went to sleep and called it a night. On day 45, after waking up, I noticed this squad of sea turtles that had been hanging out near my base that honestly I would love to have as pets. So I crafted a bunch more furnaces that I used to fence them in so I could give them all a cool place to live in the future inside of my base. Except after finishing their totally not prison, I noticed just how deep the water inside went, so I took a quick dive down to find this crazy deep mini cave with some free coal inside. But instead of mining the coal, I instead blocked it off so the turtles could not go all the way down there and get lost inside of the abyss. Don't worry guys, I will be back for you. Maybe not in these 100 days though. Anyways, after blocking in the turtles, I ended up spending the next 5 days straight until day 50 finishing up this bottom floor part of my treehouse. During this process, I kept running out of wood, so I had to keep stopping by to mine more trees, and for some reason my stick boy actually decided to like working again. So throughout my time adding the rest of the perimeter and floor, I kept stopping by this dude to trade more sticks for some juicy emeralds along with some sweet XP, and I ended up having enough XP to finally begin enchanting things. But anyways, by the time it was the end of day 50, the entire foundation for the bottom floor of the base had been finished, and I was once again wood poor. On day 51, I wanted to finally build the small villager breeder so that way I could get my diamond tool and weapon farms going. However, I found myself in need of 2 more things before I could do that. First, I needed some more string to make wool for beds, that is, unless I wanted to use a shepherd villager instead. And after that, I needed a lot more dirt so I can get the farm in the center and some other farms around my base going once again. So today was going to be a day of adventure. I set out to the left of my base to look for some easy exposed dirt. And while doing this, I also decided to stop by that exposed lava pool from before, so that way I could get some more fuel, and to my surprise, there was a brand new shipwreck off in the distance that I didn't really remember looting yet. So I swam over there to check it out, and yeah, this turned out to be a brand new, freshly stocked ship that included a free treasure map, some more paper and feathers, and a chest with emeralds, lapis, and iron. So I stuffed all of this into my inventory, and after finishing looting that ship, I saw yet another one off in the distance. So like the very distracted gamer that I was, I set off to check it out, and this one turned out to be one of those super awful buried in the beach ones that are a pain, no pun intended, to find the treasure chests in. But I did manage to find one of them that had some typical kind of garbage loot inside, plus a piece of moss that might actually be useful in this world, because I'm pretty sure there's no other way to find it. Anyways though, at this point my inventory was stuffed and the loot didn't stop coming, because in the distance I could see not only another shipwreck, but there was also an abandoned portal with a free real estate gold block just sitting out on the top ripe for the picking. However, since my inventory was already wrecked, see what I did there? I decided to mark my spot with some cobblestone, and I headed back home for the day to dump off my loot. For day 52, I did the exact same thing as yesterday. After dumping my inventory, I ran all the way back to the last shipwreck that I had looted, and once I got here, I headed over to the first abandoned portal, which, not gonna lie, kinda sucked. It had some basic gold armor, a flint and steel, and of course that shiny new gold block, which is pretty much the only reason why I came over here. But honestly, this loot didn't really matter because I was on my way to the next boat to find some real treasure nearby. And even bigger surprise, while I was headed towards this shipwreck, I saw yet another one nearby. So cue the classic PainDomination distracted looting arc, which began with this very first boat that I had mentioned, and this one was literally perfect. It was sitting on top of the water, so I didn't really have to struggle to get any of the loot. And this boy had all 3 chests, which had another treasure map, some more books, some paper, emeralds, lapis, and of course, more iron inside. Overall, this ship was pretty good. Anyways, after borrowing this already suffering pirate's loot, I checked out the treasure map that I had gotten, and it led to a nearby spot at the bottom of the ocean. So I crafted myself a couple of doors because I'm not the biggest fan of drowning, and I dove down to begin mining, except this treasure ended up being more elusive than my father after going out to get milk 5 years ago. I sat here through the night mining so much more stone than I should have while trying to find this bad boy until finally, I had finally found it, and I was really close to giving up on it, not gonna lie, but I'm glad I didn't because inside of this bad boy were 3 juicy diamondes. So now that this mess was over, I swam back to the surface just to find that it was nighttime and raining. And since I didn't really have a bed on me, I instead decided to just swim over to the next ship and loot the chests, which ended up having another treasure map inside and a 4th diamond. Today was a very successful day. On day 53, after the sun came up, the very first thing I did was whip out that treasure map just to find out that it was right next to me on the ocean floor again. So I swam down once again, placed down the doors, and I was ready to struggle yet again to find another treasure. And no, not this time, because the literal only piece of gravel that was sitting too high on the bottom of the ocean floor had the treasure chest beneath it. And inside was yet another diamond, along with some more pretty good loot. This trip was bussin'. And as Billy Mays would say, but wait, there's more. Because in the distance, underwater, I saw this huge structure thing with magma blocks that looked kind of like another abandoned portal. So I began making my way over there, and directly behind this portal was another shipwreck. At this rate, I was kind of hoping I wouldn't find any more because I still had a treasure map to excavate and I wanted to go home. But anyways, after arriving at the portal, the chest had 2 golden apples inside, which was pretty perfect to me, not gonna lie. And I didn't really look for any of the gold blocks because, you know, we're underwater and finding them when they're buried is a pain in the butt underwater. So instead of doing that, I was on to the next ship, which ended up being another 3 chest ship that had a treasure map that was underwater yet again, a whole bunch more emeralds and iron. And finally, I had found some bamboo for sticks. I was absolutely stoked. I was more excited for bamboo than I was for diamonds. And the busted loot didn't end there because on day 54, I swam over to the next underwater treasure map where I once again struggled trying to find it just for it to also be hidden under a single piece of gravel. But that didn't matter because just look at the loot inside of this boy. Slap's roof. You can fit so many diamonds in TNT in this bad boy. Or at least you could now because I stole all of them. And after that, since I was mostly done looting everything and it was now nighttime once again, I made my way back home while also hunting any and all spiders that I could find along the way so I could get some extra string. And I also maybe got caught up in a, zombie apocalypse. 100 days zombie apocalypse when? Anyways, by the time I finally got home and I dumped some of my loot, I was now up to 20 diamonds. Nice. On day 55, now that I was back home with the dirt that I needed and definitely didn't get distracted while getting it, I began the day by planting the new bamboo that I had gotten so I could begin gathering some easy sticks. And after that, it was finally time to build myself the villager farm. And this time, since I don't really want to focus on just the villager trading, these guys were going to get a smaller breeding area with a smaller farm in the center made entirely out of more spruce wood. And overall, it wasn't symmetrical, but I think it turned out okay. I mean, it was nothing special, but it worked for now. So I went back and grabbed more carrots and an iron hoe so I could plant all of the crops in the center, and I used the extra bed that I crafted to slowly bait each of the villagers over and into the breeder, and once they were nice and snug in their beds, I added the composter to the center, I lit it all up so no bad guys would turn them into snack packs, and yeah, my villagers now had themselves a brand new home that was entirely consensual for them to live there. Entirely. Anyways, now that my villagers were inside their new home and it was nighttime once again, I went back out on the hunt for more spiders because I was out of string again and I needed beds for the villagers. So I found myself running around picking off what few spiders that were spawning, and I was having some pretty bad luck with the drops. That is until I saw another zombie villager in the distance that I decided to lead all the way back to my platform where I had trapped him with a boat, and I cured him so he could become my brand new toolsmith on the next day. So for day 56, as the sun began to rise, another wandering trader spawned in right next to my new villager, and he didn't really have much, but he did technically have things that I couldn't otherwise get, so I bought his entire stock. I'll take 20. I bought myself some of the brand new drip leaf that I've still yet to use. I got a ton of flowers for some weird reason. And the craziest thing happened right after. The trader and his 2 friends all just disappeared. I have no clue what happened. Anyways, after trading with the trader, I was kind of stuck waiting for my new villager to cure, so I went back to check on the first 2, and for some reason, the stick guy now had 7 stick emerald trades. Why am I so cursed with villagers in all of my worlds now? Anyways, after seeing that disappointment, my villager had cured, so I gave him a smithing table, and I began trading with him for tools until he unlocked an efficiency 2 axe and an efficiency 2 unbreaking 3 diamond pickaxe. Also, for some weird reason, all of his trades were 1-for-1s the first time I did them, and after refreshing those same trades, they had gone back up. Honestly, villagers in this world have been acting mad sus, but that was okay because I now had enough diamond tools to combine inside the anvil for an efficiency 4 diamond axe. So that way I could gather way more wood way faster. And on top of that, I could also make myself an efficiency 4 unbreaking 3 diamond pickaxe that I couldn't yet combine because I had blown through all of my XP that I had on these subpar tools. Today may have not been it, Chief. On the next day, day 57, I spent most of the day kind of just doing the same thing. I went back to check on my stick guy, and he was now back to his perfect 1-for-1 trades, which means he was probably just upset because I kind of flooded the market with my wood. So with that cleared up, I just kept trading with each of my villagers for some easy XP until I had exactly enough to finish combining my pickaxe into that beautifully subpar efficiency 4 unbreaking 3. And now that I had better tools, I spent the rest of the night planting spruce, oak, and jungle trees for more resources so I could begin working on my base. And overall, this was a super productive night. I didn't mine nearly as many trees as I wanted, but I did kill a ton more spiders. I was attacked by Danny Phantoms, and I got an ender pearl while trolling some endermen from the water. Good times. On day 58, before I began building, I went back to trade with my stick boy once again, and his trades were back up in price. This guy was literally hustling me, but it was all good because I was about to reverse hustle him with that classic Uno reverse card. So I grabbed myself the remainder of the bone meal that I had, and I grew enough carrots for me to make it rain on both of them. And after that, I used some of the string that I had been farming to give them a third bed so they could woohoo, as the Sims would like to call it, and make more children. Anyways, now that I was waiting on them to make more babies, and I once again had an abundance of wood, I began laying out the foundation for the central house that I was going to use for my bed, my chest storage, furnaces, and honestly, whatever else I felt like. And this process took me until day 63 because I didn't really know what I was going for. I began by laying out a rectangular base, and I used 4 of the massive center trees as the 4 corners, even though they weren't all symmetrical. But then again, I wasn't going for symmetry, and after that I began customizing each wall with 2 to 4 window segments that I customized by adding spruce trapdoors and spruce slabs. After this, I added these interesting looking lampposts to the corners and each side of the doors on both sides, so that way the area could have more light while also looking a lot more classy because lantern master race. And anyways, now that the sides were done for now, I added a small roof area that I didn't really know what they're called in real life, so roof area it is. But yeah, I added a combination of slabs and trapdoors all around the top of the walls, so there ended up being this crazy cozy overhanging area. And overall, this kinda took a lot longer than I had expected, but I was very happy with the progress that I made. Things were really going my way, especially because on the final days of working on it, day 63, I found a baby zombie chicken rider in the distance that I trapped in a boat so I could maybe make a chicken farm in the future. And after that, while finishing up the build, I had heard the first sound of a baby villager. And just like that, my lazy farmer had finally started passing around his bread. Or carrots, I guess. Wow, that doesn't sound right. On day 64, I began crafting a pile of chests to make my new storage wall, and unlike my normal size storage walls, this one wasn't going to be perfectly organized, for both the sake of time, necessity, space, and I guess my sanity. However, I was still going to use item frames to organize it the best I could with what I had, which at the time was only 5 leather. So 5 item frames it was. Anyways, after making the small chest wall, I gathered the furnaces that were just kind of chilling in front of my staircase, and I moved them to this wall inside of my new base so I could begin smelting lots of stone to make myself more blast furnaces. So I could turn this area into a nice little kitchen-like area to smelt anything and everything. And while I was waiting for the stone to cook, I harvested all of my bamboo and crafted them all into sticks to trade with my stick boy, who for some reason kept switching between 1 stick trades and some other ridiculous number back and forth over and over. So after checking on those guys again, I went back to finish crafting more furnaces for my furnace wall, and I added a nice smoker into the center, so that way when I do go and hunt more hoglins for their leather, I could cook some of the meat at a decent speed. Which, while I'm at it, I'd like to mention, hoglins are one of the worst Minecraft mobs that exist ever. No cap. But anyways, on the next day, day 65, the very first thing I did was make myself a much anticipated loom so I could finally turn the 4th fully grown villager into a shepherd boy. Rolf from Ed Ed Netty was going to have himself a friend. After trading with this guy a ton, he had gotten pink beds for 1 emerald each. So, of course, like the man of culture that I am, I filled my entire inventory up with those bad boys, and I placed out as many of them as I could fit inside of the villager area, so these guys would start repopulating faster than cringy TikTok videos. Plus now, I had my very own deluxe pink bed that I could sleep in each night just like Barbie. Not quite purple, but I guess it will do for now. So now that all my villagers were all set to make more for me to exploit, I was on to adding a second floor to the center house. I began by laying out a border of spruce logs to add some separation, and after that I added a side ladder so I could get up there, and as it started to rain, I filled in the entire floor above and I began working on the walls on the second floor. And that's when I had this incredible idea to somehow try to incorporate a balcony as another floor. However, I couldn't really think of a good way to make it work yet, with the top of the trees being way too low, and at this point, I could no longer stand the constant rain, so I went to sleep for the night. For day 66, I started out by going back to my villager pit for some good old-fashioned capitalism with the boys. And these guys had already gone to work because there was a brand new baby jumping on one of the beds. So I awarded them with some beautiful stick trades, which earned me a solid 32 more emeralds. And after checking on them, it was back to finishing the second floor of my base, except midway through, I finally ran out of spruce wood, so it was time to get back to my roots with some classic deforestation. Or at least that's what I would like to say if I hadn't planted more trees than I tore down. Maybe I am like Mr. Beast. Anyways, I was back up to 4 stacks of wood in no time because of my lightning fast brand new diamond pickaxe, which must be true because it rhymes. So now that I had wood, I could get back to working on the top floor, which I quickly filled in with differing windows on every side. However, I couldn't really figure out the whole third layer balcony yet, and while I was up here contemplating my life choices, I saw another zombie villager off in the distance that I wanted to go and check out. However, once I got down and over there were mobs everywhere, and he turned out to be a jobless loser, which I don't really know if they can even become regular villagers after being cured or not, but I'm pretty confident they don't, so I kind of just bailed from the horde of mobs and hung out in the water debating Enderman over for some more free ender pearls. On the beginning of day 67, I decided that for now I was going to stop working on the top layer of the house, so I climbed up there and tore down all of the wood planks that I had laid out a couple of days ago because they were kind of just an eyesore, and for today I instead had some different big plans. So I grabbed my whole inventory of emeralds and I headed back to the original hole that I once called my home, so that way I could visit the mending villager for some bookshelves and more mending books. And once I got here, this guy was ready for the trades of his lifetime. I fully leveled him up so I could see what his second enchanted book was, and he got Unbreaking 1, which was a big nope for me because it costs a ton of XP to actually turn that into Unbreaking 3. But even though I didn't walk away with those Unbreaking 1 books, I did end up with some pretty quality stuff. That's right, my inventory was overly stuffed because I maybe forgot to leave stuff back in my base. But anyways, since I now had what I needed, it was time to head back home. And while I was on my way there, I couldn't stop admiring just how good the place was starting to look from the distance. This base was looking based. So once I finally arrived back home, I used the bookshelves that I traded to place out a nice square area for an enchantment setup. And I used some of my diamonds and obsidian to craft myself an enchantment table that I plopped down in the middle, and I now had access to level 30 enchants. And conveniently enough, I had just enough XP to fuel my gambling addiction. So I did something kind of dumb, and instead of waiting to get a nice diamond sword with a weaponsmith, I instead crafted a diamond sword and took the risk of a tier 3 Smite 4 enchantment, which only gave me Smite 4. It was worth a shot, but it was not worth it in the long run. However, I was not done because I had a raging gambling addiction. So I said screw it and I crafted a second diamond sword, wasting 2 more diamonds, and the tier 3 enchantment for this boy was gross and icky spider splatter, which now meant that I was going to have to re-roll the table by enchanting something with a level 1 enchantment. However, if I did that, I wouldn't have enough XP to do another level 3. So instead of wasting more time messing with this, I went out on a mob destroying rampage. And in the process, I also managed to cop a couple more ender pearls before hitting level 31. And now that I had enough XP, it was back to the almighty enchantment table, where I got scammed once again. Because my second diamond sword ended up getting sharpness 3, sweeping edge 3, which isn't that bad, and knockback 2. So even if I wanted to keep the 2 good enchantments, I would be stuck with a knockback sword, which is really such a useless enchantment. Like, I know people say they like it, But like, why? And what reason would you want to knock a mob backwards? I can think of a couple, like maybe like a hoglin or like a sword piglin boy, but besides that, what if you're trying to kill creepers and you don't want to have to do it the long way? I don't know. It just takes more time. But anyways, rant over. I kind of just found myself at a loss today. So on the next day, day 68, I woke up ready for some real progress because I was not going to fail 2 days in a row. So the very first thing I did was craft myself a lectern using some of the remaining books that I took over to the villager pen to begin re-rolling the new adult villager. And even though he was bred instead of cured, he for some reason still had crazy discounts. But hey, honestly, I will take what I can get. So I kept re-rolling him in the hopes of something good until I hit an Unbreaking 3 trade for only 6 emeralds, which I really couldn't pass up on, so I used my remaining emeralds to buy 2 books. And after those trades were done, the stick guy decided to refresh those beautiful 1-for-1 stick trades once again, so I gladly took advantage of them for some more emeralds, and apparently these guys finally had their first iron golem spawn in nearby, so my base is officially a real village, and I now had my own security detail. Anyways though, I now had more emeralds, so I used them to buy more pickaxes from the toolsmith, and I made a grindstone so I could begin enchanting them in the hopes of getting silk touch, so I could begin collecting stone to replace the floor around my base. So I sat here disenchanting pickaxe after pickaxe while checking the enchantment table for the perfect enchantment with some pretty garbage luck. And for some reason, the enchants were still the same each time, even after enchanting tier 1 books in between. So I kept doing this over and over with no luck until the next tier 3 enchantment became Fortune 3, which I really could use to get me some more ores. So I decided to just leave the enchantment here to cool off for a bit until I could come back when I had enough XP. On day 69, nice, the second baby villager in the pen had grown up, so I made another lectern that I could use to get silk touch. So I made another lectern that I could use to get silk touch the much easier way without relying on RNGesus. And speaking of RNGesus, he seemed to be on my side because only after 5 rerolls I had gotten silk touch for 1 single emerald. So I took my new silk touch book and I added it along with mending to my diamond pickaxe, so we were that much closer to perfection. And if you're wondering, I would have added another efficiency to make it at 5 as well. That is, if it wouldn't end up costing me my entire XP life savings. Anyways though, now that I have my pickaxe, I can begin using the decadent stone bricks that I loved so much. And the first thing I wanted to build was a proper bridge over to my island. But that meant that I had to first evict my toolsmith inside of the boat from his dump of a home. And this guy, you know what? I do not like this guy. He would not follow me for anything. And to top it all off, he was making working sounds near my brewing stands, as if they were even his block. What is this guy's problem? I was so confused, but you know what? It's fine now. I stuffed him in a boat to wait for nighttime, so that way it would be much easier, and I began tearing down that abomination that he used to call a home. And also while I was at it, I decided to get rid of the shipwreck nearby because it was kind of in the way and it was also kind of an eyesore. And by the time both of these structures were mostly cleaned up, the sun had now gone down, so I had the big brain idea to also light up a huge portion of the area in front of the bridge, so that way no zombies would spawn in and stalk me from the distance. And of course, during this night, with my luck, there were 2 more zombie villagers that spawned in, and I no longer had an area to cure them. And on top of that, they both despawned right before my eyes. I was literally Optifine zooming in on them for cool footage, and they both despawned. It's a conspiracy, I swear. For the next 2 days, days 70 through 71, I began exploring the nearby exposed stone areas around my base to harvest some easy stone for some stone bricks. And while I was at it, I also stole any coal, iron, and copper, so that way I could smelt them or break them with Fortune 3 in the future for more easy XP and resources. And honestly, I don't know why I tried to get the stones this way, because I was completely distracted for both of these days. I just kept harvesting more and more coal because I really didn't have that much, and also while exploring some underwater caves, I ended up finding lots more iron and copper and just not stone. Overall, I didn't get a lot of stone like I wanted, but I did end up with 2 stacks plus 9 of coal ore, which was going to become a ton of coal once I finally get that Fortune 3 enchantment. Anyways, before the sun began to set, I headed back home and I kind of just stood around planning for the night because I had a couple of options for my base. Either I could build a stone generator and use the stone bricks like I planned, or I had an even better idea to strip mine as far down as I could for lots of the new deep slate blocks, while also testing out just how common diamonds really are now. And based on how I described it, I'm pretty sure you know which one of those is more fun. So I went over to a creative world to test out the new deep slate bricks and tiles in comparison with regular stone bricks. And honestly, they might be just as cool looking. So I had made my decision. I was going to go strip mining. So as the sun went down, I crafted a couple of stacks of ladders that I was probably going to need a lot more of, and I started digging a 2-wide tunnel straight down underneath my staircase. And while digging down, I thought I would give you all a quick pro gamer tip. If you ever want to dig straight down in your world, you should always do it by twos, so that way you are never standing on the actual block that you're breaking. Especially now that, you know, caves are massive and you can find yourself falling like 50 blocks. Not a big poggers moment. Anyways, I spent the rest of day 71 digging down and most of day 72 because it takes so long to hit bedrock at this point. And about halfway through mining, I finally hit deep slate. And this is when things started to get real. I kept finding different ores like gold and coal while digging down until I began hearing lava. And that's when I hit this cave system that led to a massive room nearby. And I couldn't help but think to myself just how glad I was that I did not dig straight down into that, because building down from the roof with water into a pile of dangerous mobs didn't really sound all too appetizing, you know? Anyways though, since this cave was close to my hole, I wanted to make sure it was safe, so I quickly ran through to light it up, while also taking out any mobs that I saw, and of course stealing all of the beautiful ores with Silk Touch. I quickly lit up the first half of the cave until I had stumbled upon that massive room that I was talking about. And honestly, I would love to explore it, but like, I'm kind of running out of time to actually work on my base. So instead, I turned back around to light up the other end until I ran out of torches. And since I had Silk Touch now, all of the coal ores that I had on me could not be used for torches. So I was stuck climbing all the way back up to the surface. And I did what must be done. I smelted an entire stack of spruce wood into charcoal, which basically took the rest of the day. On the next day, day 73, now that I had a renewable source of torches, I was ready to finish exploring that cave and continue digging down to bedrock. So I made my long journey back down the ladder, and once I got down here, it turned out that the other side of the cave was actually a dead end. So I continued digging my hole, Yogcast style, until I finally hit bedrock. And now the experiment was ready to begin. So I spent the next 5 days straight until day 78 down here on Y-59, digging straight tunnels with 2 blocks in between to maximize my chances for diamonds, while also harvesting tons of deep slate in the process. And for the first couple of days, things were looking pretty bleak. I had made 3 different tunnels that all eventually hit lava, and during all of that mining, I only found a single vein of 1 diamond ore, along with a couple of small gold and redstone veins that weren't really much. However, on day 77, I decided to switch it up and dig in the opposite direction. And I kid you not, after digging only a couple of blocks, I hit a massive 8 vein of deep slate diamond. But I didn't stop there. I continued mining for quite a while without finding anything much else besides gold, redstone, and lapis, until I hit a second massive vein of diamonds. And this one ended up having 7. I continued mining until the end of day 78, where I found another vein of 5 diamonds. And overall, strip mining doesn't seem to have changed very much, but maybe it's just because I'm in a beach-only world with only 1 type of cave. Overall, in these 5 days, I ended up with almost a full chest of deep slate stone, and I found 21 diamond ores, along with not that many other ores. But either way, I had now gotten exactly what I came down here for, along with much more. On day 79, I grabbed all of my supplies from the chest down below in 2 trips, and I brought them all up top so I could begin working on the walls and my brand new bridge. Except now, I had a problem. I had 0 clue how to make the deep slate into stone bricks. And it's not like some dumb problem either. I sat here trying everything that I could think of. I tried using a stone cutter, I tried smelting it, I tried crafting it in different recipes, and overall I had 0 luck, so I had to Google it. And that's when I realized just how badly I had screwed up. It turns out that deep slate was the complete opposite of regular stone. Why? I needed cobble deep slate to make the bricks, which makes absolutely no sense. I had gotten silk touch for nothing, and now I had an entire chest of blocks that I had to break again without silk touch just to use them. I was at such a loss. So I began placing them with my offhand while breaking them with a different, slower pickaxe until it started raining, which kind of felt like a sign. So I kind of just went to sleep sad for the day. Today was not a good day. On day 80, I woke up ready. Day 79 may not have been so great, but today I was not going to let it get the best of me because I was going to go ham on both building the bridge and building the wall. So I spent today using a combination of deep slate, bricks, slabs, and blocks with spruce logs and spruce fence to make this layered bridge that goes over the middle of the water in front of my base. And while building it, I realized that the pile of sand on the other side where the shipwreck used to be was still in my way. So I figured I would go and make one of my villagers into a toolsmith so I could get a diamond shovel to clear the sand a lot more efficiently. However, for some weird reason that I have no clue why, I instead made another lectern and I tried to use it instead. I have no clue what I was doing here. I don't know what was going through my head this day. My mind is an enigma. But hey, just look at how good the new bridge already looks, even though it's nowhere near done yet. And speaking of the bridge, just as I Optifine zoomed in on it, another wandering trader popped up nearby. And this guy didn't really have a ton to offer, but he did have seeds, so I could now get that bread, both figuratively and literally. So I wasted a bunch of emeralds to buy 12 seeds from him, and I captured both of his llamas and boats so I could get some new friends because you know what they say, if you can't make friends, steal them. Or at least I think that's what they say. I don't really have friends, so I don't know. Anyways, I got 2 name tags, and I named them after 2 classic animes. I named the first one Rukia, and I named the second one Index. Let me know in the comments which anime those are from. The first one's pretty obvious, but I feel like the second one is kind of underrated. Anyways, though, after naming them, I tried to give them carpets or chests, and I looked it up online, and I'm pretty sure they're still gonna despawn, just like Rem and Rom did, but I guess we'll find out in a couple of days. Yikes. For the next day, day 81, I made a second smithing table in an attempt to get myself a nice diamond shovel. Except while leveling up the toolsmith, he also only ended up having an axe and a pickaxe. So I wasted a pile of resources for virtually nothing. So to cut my losses, I picked up all of the enchanted tools and I unenchanted them using the grindstone to get more of that sweet XP that I was definitely going to need a lot more of. And after that, I used the spare lectern that I had mistakenly made to reset another villager for Fortune 3 because I was quickly growing impatient to mine all of those silk touch ores and get even more XP and loot. They were just sitting in my chests taunting me. So I kept re-rolling this guy while struggling with the pile of villagers that were in the pen, house. And he didn't get anything near what I was looking for, but hey, he did offer me mending for only 1 emerald that I didn't really need because I already had a mending dude living his best life down inside of a hole. Anyways, at this point the sun ended up going down and no one wanted to keep re-rolling for the night, so I had to call it a day. And just like that, we were now on to the next day, day 82, and today was absolutely massive. The first thing I did was continue re-rolling my villagers until I got distracted by a real nice looking infinity enchantment. So that way I could make a bow to use to take on the Ender Dragon. And it didn't stop there. I made another lectern and I kept re-rolling until RNGesus himself dropped his luck down upon me. I had gotten Fortune 3 for 1 emerald. So I bought a book, combined Efficiency 3 pickaxes together for Efficiency 4, Unbreaking 3, and I tossed Fortune onto it so I could now harvest all of my ores without having to waste XP at the enchantment table. So like the absolute professional gamer that I am, I began placing out all of my diamonds. I laid them all out in a nice block like any man of culture would do on the sand, and I quickly smashed my way through them, which is one of the most satisfying things to do ever in Minecraft. Like honestly. Overall, after breaking all of the diamond ores, they had totaled me a net 35 diamonds, which combined with what I already had became 49, with pretty much no effort on my end. Anyways, though, after mining all of the diamonds, I laid out my redstone in this crazy shape that I have no clue how it ended up looking like that. No comment. I mined all of them and I organized them into my chests that were still sitting on the beach, followed by my lapis, followed by all of the coal, which ended up becoming 37 blocks, and it was now safe to say all of my torch problems would be gone forever. On day 83, now that all my ores were mined, I could go back to working on the bridge, but first, I still needed my shovel. So instead of wasting more time and resources on another villager, I just crafted my own, and I took it over to the enchantment table just to see what I could get for a tier 2 enchantment. And it ended up getting Unbreaking 3, Efficiency 3, which honestly isn't that bad. Beggars cannot be choosers. And now that I have my shovel, I spent this entire day cleaning out the landscape so it wasn't so awful looking, and by the time the sun had gone down, I ran around picking up all of the sand and wood while relighting the area back up with torches so I could continue building the bridge and walls in peace. And that is exactly what I did for the next 5 days straight until day 89. I began by mirroring the first half of my bridge to the other side, and after it was complete, I added lanterns to each of the pillars along with underneath, and overall with the addition of deep slate bricks, this thing looked absolutely stunning. As Gordon Ramsay would say, decadent. I honestly cannot wait to make future builds using these blocks more. These things look so good. So now that the bridge was mostly complete for the next 4 days straight, I began laying out more deep slate and spruce pillars all around the front part of my little island. I placed the pillars in between every 4 deep slate while also adding fences to the top of each with more lanterns hanging off of the outer edge for both extra lighting and just that really nice decorative touch. And after that, I added a small deep slate platform on the inside perimeter so that way I could look over the edge of the wall and watch all of the peasant mobs struggle to exist on the outside. And after building this front portion of the wall, I stepped back to take a look to see how everything looked together, and this new block was absolutely gorgeous. I was in love. It was the perfect, slightly darker complement to the spruce wood that we literally always needed. And I was now so excited to have this wall around my entire base. That is, if I had the time to finish it. Because between the time it would take to gather more wood, convert all of the deep slate into cobble deep slate, and finish building this whole thing around the entirety of the base, along with lighting it up, I was 100% going to run out of enough time to defeat the Ender Dragon and get myself the coveted Elytra. So if you guys do really enjoy this video, then don't forget to leave a like to let me know if we should revisit this world for 200 days in the future, where I could honestly finish making this base look like a jungle tropical oasis, complete with jungle palm trees and more nature and just everything. This place is going to look so good and I would love to finish it. For the next day, day 90, it was time to clean up around the base a little more before the final preparations to take on the Ender Dragon. So the first thing I did was use a couple of leather that I had gotten from the few wandering traders that had stopped by and magically disappeared for some weird reason to make a few more item frames for my chest area of my base. And after making the item frames, I threw them on a couple of chests and I organized all of my rare items such as diamonds, emerald, gold, iron, and copper, along with lapis, redstone, and coal. And for the rest of this day, I was running back and forth delivering all of my items from the chests on the bottom level of my house while waiting for some of the ores to smelt until finally the main entrance to my base was now unobstructed. So to finish off the night, I crafted some regular stone bricks to replace the sand in between my staircase and the bridge just to see if they would work well together with the darker deep slate. And honestly, I don't quite know how I feel about it yet. And speaking about not knowing how to feel, both Rukia and Index despawned just like I thought they were going to, so I guess they will be missed. 07s in the comments. I guess I will never have my own llama friends to spit on my enemies for me. For the next day, day 91, now that everything was all settled in my base, I decided to spend some more quality time with my villagers while trying to get looting for my sword and power for my bow. I sat here rerolling them for about 7 minutes straight, and overall, it was awful. This place was becoming mad overpopulated, and they kept mocking me by giving me things I already struggled to earn, like Fortune 3 and Mending, over and over and over again. That is until I finally got Looting 3 for a measly 1 emerald. And not gonna lie, I was kind of in a trance at this point, so I almost rerolled him, but luckily I caught it just in time. And now that I had Looting 3, I went over to my anvil and I threw it on my best sword, which wasn't really that great overall, but I did give it an amazing name, Saint Breakout. Which, by the way, let me know in the comments if you also know what anime that one's from. Big hint, by the way, I already referenced it once in this video so far. But anyways, now that my sword was set to go, it was on to my armor because this whole time, both my chest piece and my leggings have been garbage. So I combined all of my leggings together while also farming XP from villager traits in between, and I added Unbreaking 3 and Mending to them, so they now had Protection 4, Unbreaking 3, and Mending. And I was trying to give them a name, but I legit sat here with my game paused for like 5 minutes with like no luck. So Diamond Leggings it was for now. What a good name. So now that my pants were better and it had become nighttime, it had become time to take Saint Breakout out for a test run, so I can go farm for as many Ender Pearls and XP as I could find. And boy was this a productive night. I accidentally stared at 2 Endermen at once while also being swarmed by spiders, which can only be described as creamy sounding, may I add. And by using the power of friendship, all of these guys had guided my health down by halfway. But alas, they were no match for what I've become now. So after wiping the floor with that entire raid team, I spent the rest of the night continuing to farm anything that moved until morning, where I had found myself with a new total of 19 Ender Pearls, which included the ones from my chest before, plus an additional 45 string and 30 spider eyes. On day 92, it was back to some more classic capitalism. I started off the day by trading with more villagers for XP and enchanted tools that I could unenchant for some more XP. After getting to level 20, I began re-rolling my last jobless villager in the hopes of getting either power 4 or 5 for my bow. And after only a couple of rolls, he gave me power 3, which, you know what? It was good enough for me because now I was in a hurry. So I bought 2 of the books, combined them into a power 4, and I tried to add it along with Unbreaking 3 and Infinity to my brand new bow, except now I needed another 19 levels. Which, not gonna lie, were pretty easy to get now because my ring of capitalism. So after trading with the boys a bit more and getting 19 levels, I added the book to my bow, and I gave it the amazing name L plus ratio plus cringe plus you're bald. Because anyone who was about to get shot by this bad boy was going to feel real bad about themselves. Plus, I mean, just look at how long that name is when I switch to it. It's honestly pretty funny. Anyways, now that my weapons are both set up, there's one last thing that I wanted to fix before going to find the stronghold. And that was my diamond chest piece, because this thing has had fire protection 2 for the entire video, which was completely useless to me. So it was back to mass trading with villagers for a whole other pile of XP, that is until they all went to sleep when the sun went down, which was so ungamer-like of them. But that was okay, because I was twice the gamer they could ever be. So I disenchanted my chest piece once again to check the trades, and I had been gifted Protection 4 enchantment, which now I was once again in need of 30 levels to obtain. So it was time for a good old-fashioned all-nighter once again. I grabbed my trusty Saint Breakout sword, and I spent the entire night until daylight out in the fields hunting down mobs for dank XP. And by the time it was the morning of day 93, I was now 2/3 of the way to level 30. So for day 93, it was basically more of the same, but to the extreme. I was flipping trades faster than Amazon resellers. I was trading garbage for emeralds, emeralds for garbage, and I was blasting my way up to level 30 until literally right before level 30, I was level 29 at the time, one of my librarians leveled up and they got a Protection 3 book, which I could have easily used to solve my problem. But no, I was already here and I was hoping to score some more free enchantments from that tier 3 enchant. So I hit level 30, went over to the enchantment table, and I got Protection 4 and Unbreaking 3. I was now set. So I went back to my anvil, and I gave the chest piece Mending so it was closer to perfect, and I named it Domain Expansion after one of my favorite animes. And after that, since I had some leftover XP laying around, I finally added Unbreaking 3 to my Air Jordans so they wouldn't take as much damage, which would save me more XP in the future. And just like that, I was pretty much set to take on the Ender Dragon. So to finish off this day, I organized my inventory, brewed some slow falling potions just in case, I crafted more golden apples, I crafted my Eyes of Ender, and I got everything inside my inventory nice and organized and ready for the long road trip in the end. And now that I had everything set up, I approached my bed, ready for what came tomorrow, and I went to sleep for the night. Day 94. Today was the big day that I was going to go out and hunt down the stronghold. So I put my Eyes of Ender into my hotbar, I right-clicked the first one to check the direction, and I immediately set out on my journey to conquer the end. And let me tell you, while I was tracking down this stronghold, I felt like I had some serious dream vibes. After passing by the large mountain that was by my base, I found not one, not two, but 3 brand new shipwrecks. But today was not the day, because I was quickly running out of time to go to the end and get the elytra. So if I do end up revisiting this world for 200 days, these are pretty close by my base anyways, I will totally pay them a visit if I remember. So don't forget to leave a like. Anyways, I continued exploring while following the eyes of Ender, and my dream luck continued growing by the second, because not long after passing the first 3 ships, there were 3 more chilling just out in the open. But I must be strong. It was the Ender Dragon testing me. So I kept pushing on until the eyes started to curve, and then finally they went straight down. I had found the stronghold, and it surprisingly wasn't that far away from our base. So I began digging straight down, and apparently the stronghold now spawns below Y0, because it was so far down that I ended up hitting deep slate. But anyways, I was now here, and this stronghold was super easy. I dug straight into 4 easy chests nearby, and I did see the library off to the side, and I didn't really feel like looting it, so instead I took a turn, and right away I found the portal room. So here I was, ready to take on the dragon. One by one, I placed each eye of Ender until the sound of the portal opening rung out across the world. I was ready. So on day 95, I jumped through the portal and the fight began. And let me just tell you, there was some weird stuff going on in this super scuffed end island. I spawned so far away that I had to ender pearl myself back onto the island, but that didn't stop me from taking her down. So for a little bit of nostalgia, cue montage. And just like that, I had slain the Ender Dragon and claimed her domain as mine. Overall, this battle was super easy. She tried fighting dirty and for the second half of the fight refused to perch altogether, but with my trusty L plus ratio, plus cringe, plus your bald by my side, I shot her down out of the sky that she once tormented. And I then bathed in her juicy XP as it rained down upon me. And of course, I was just shy of level 69 once again. I honestly feel like they do it on purpose. On day 96, now that the dragon was defeated and I had collected her egg, it was time to find myself some end cities. So I built my way up to the portal, I made a small platform just in case I missed, and I ender pearled my way through so I could begin my hopefully not as bad as the 1-block world journey. And honestly, I could not make this up. This was by far the best end spawn ever. I spawned in on actual land that I didn't have to bridge over to keep exploring, and after walking only a couple hundred blocks, I cranked my render distance up to 64 to really get the bird's eye view, and I kid you not, in the distance was a cluster of 3 giga end cities that were each accompanied by an end ship. I came here expecting this to take until day 100 if I was lucky to get an elytra, and here I am on day 96 staring down 3 of them. And if it couldn't get any better, right before arriving at the first end city, there was another end portal node that I could use to go straight back home after finishing looting everything. And things were about to go down. So to kick off my looting spree, I ran up to the 2 shulkers guarding the first end city faster than scalpers buying Pokemon cards at your local Target. And I cut them up like Fruit Ninja, followed by the 3rd shulker at the top of the end city. And yeah, that's kind of all this first one had to offer. There were 0 loot rooms. However, that wasn't why I was here anyways. So after finishing off that last shulker, I sniped out the 2 shulkers that were defending the end ship before building my way over across using the cobble, and I quickly ran in and deleted the last shulker in between my new chests. And I was now the proud owner of an elytra along with the 2 pretty decent enchanted diamond helmets that were inside of these chests. So now that my first stop was complete, I crafted myself my first shulker box, which I used to dump all of my loot into. I stole the Ender Dragon head from the ship for the flex, and I donned my wings to fly all the way over to target numero dos. And honestly, these two end cities had a lot of loot rooms. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to get to the good stuff with another classic segment of PainDomination obsessing over loot. And in today's episode, we've got quite a lot of loot to obsess over. For room number 1, I stole an enchanted Protection 4 diamond helmet, a Protection 4 Unbreaking 3 diamond chestplate, some free gold, and enchanted iron armors to spare, along with some beetroot seeds, which technically could be useful in this world because you can't get them any other way besides chests, except I'm not a rabbit. Anyways, loot room number 2, which also happens to be the second end ship because this entire end city was a scam with no loot rooms. Anyways though, I built over to this end ship after sniping out the 2 shulkers, ready for my second elytra. And I think Thanos was here because the entire front half of the ship was missing. Literally everything that could have gone wrong did. This entire end city had a total of 2 chests and 0 ender chests inside. I was both robbed, scammed, and pretty upsetty. But that was kind of okay because there was still more loot to be had, so I didn't stop here. I put on my elytra once more, and I flew straight over to End City number 3. And upon landing, I noticed End City number 4 with another end ship in the distance. This game was baiting me, but in a good way. So loot room number 1 for End City number 3 had 2 more pretty good enchanted diamond chest pieces, along with an ender chest and some other random garbage. Loot room number 2 had yet another enchanted diamond chest piece, some gold, and a second ender chest. Loot room number 3, which was also the end ship, was actually not a scam this time. So I grabbed myself the elytra, along with a doo-doo butter diamond sword, this nice mending pickaxe, and the final loot room number 4, was cracked because there was 7 diamonds inside of the chest, along with another good pickaxe and a pair of mending boots, along with a pile of gold and a third ender chest. And now that I had looted all 3 of the end cities, I had a choice. Do I loot the 4th one? And if you know me, I mean, it's a dumb question. Yes, of course I'm going to. So with the James Bond skills that I have, I climbed to the top of this tower and I let a shulker shoot me into the air before putting on my elytra for maximum distance. And I was right on the money too, because I just barely made it over to the new end ship. And of course, during the flight here, I saw another end city, even further in the distance. But this time, this was where I called it. If I had rockets, then maybe, but as I am now, no, because I do not feel like walking over there, and I was running out of time. So I quickly broke into this end city, I smacked the shulker in the face with Saint Breakout, stole myself the beautiful elytra, and inside one of the chests was a juicy 6 more diamonds. This place seemed like it was rewarding me extra because of the previous scam end city that had stolen one of my elytras. Anyways, at this point, I was finished with the end, so I quickly looted the 2 loot rooms in this city, which both ended up giving me some more pretty decent loot, and then I used my elytra to fly all the way back towards my end portal, where I then built up, made myself a trapdoor to bonk me in the head so I could go through the portal without any ender pearls, and I 360 no-scope my way through the main end portal, returning home from my long journey, along with all of my brand new dank loot. And overall, I was in the end exploring until the end of day 99. And here I was, back home on day 100. I had successfully conquered the end, and I came back with some dank loot as my reward, so I spent this final day celebrating. I pulled out all of the loot that I had gotten in the end, which wasn't as much as normal because this trip was shorter, but I still had come out of there as a king. Overall, I found 3 new elytras, a ton of enchanted diamond pieces of armor, with pretty good enchantments too, along with enchanted tools, weapons, pieces of horse armor, 13 new diamonds, 50 gold, 2 dragon heads, because I think I forgot one of them, and a whole bunch of other random stuff, including 18 brand new shulker boxes. Overall, saying my trip to the end was successful would be the understatement of the century. But now that it was the final day, there was only one thing left to do, which was enchant one of my brand new elytras. So I grabbed some emeralds, went over to trade for an Unbreaking 3 book, combined it with mending, and I added them both to my elytra, which I then named Veldora's Rings as one last quality anime reference to end off the video on. And now that everything was all said and done, I donned my new elytra, and I watched as the sun set for the final day, because I mean, I literally always miss the sunset, but not today. And just like that, I had survived a full 100 days in this hardcore 1.18 beach only world. Once again, thank you all for watching to the end of this video. It really does mean a lot to me. I love the fact that you all are so active in the comments and so excited about new videos, and I really can't be thankful enough for all of you being here each and every time. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and if you do want to see 200 days for this video, or you just like the video in general, don't forget to leave a like, and if you want to see more, there will be a link to a playlist on the screen here where you can binge all of my 100 days videos. There's a lot of them. Be ready with like a full 24 hours for that, maybe even longer. And there will also be a link to my second YouTube channel that I just made called Pain, where I will be uploading some more variety content here in the near future that I really wish you guys would go over and check out. Anyways, this has been PainDomination, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.